For a while I was on a website where I had like a pen pal. But then he started flirting with me, so I stopped. But those are very helpful.
Tend to happen.
Yeah, I was like,
careful, you end up married to them like me and Marina.
Oh, shut up! So welcome to the Tea On, where we sip tea and we talk about things. I've already sipped the tea. We've had our drinks already, but I'm so excited to have this conversation today. I'm here with Ben and Marina from a podcast that I am such a fan of called Notes in Spanish.
Hello, this is Ben and Marina from Notes in Spanish. ¿Qué tal, Marina?
Hola, Ben, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien.
Yo fenomenal. To answer a question from Mike, one of our listeners, we're going to tell you all about the verb echar.
And I want to talk a little bit about learning a new language and adapting to a new culture, but before that, I want to introduce you guys first and foremost, because obviously this is important to me for a reason.
Well, I'm Marina. I'm from Madrid, and Notes in Spanish was really not a planned thing. It just appeared.
I'm Ben. I'm an English guy who's been living in Madrid for 20 years, and Notes in Spanish is a podcast that teaches people Spanish using real Spanish conversations between me and Marina. So we'll pick a topic about anything from Spanish culture to something to do with the environment or life living in another country, and we speak for 10 minutes in Spanish. If I make mistakes, which I still do occasionally, Marina corrects me, which
I love it when you
people
do.
really say they like.
I love it.
Started out as a kind of an experiment, and people said, hey, we like that, can you do more? And it's been a full-time job since 2006.
Yep, because I listen to podcasts from like all the way in like 2010, and what I love is that your content is very evergreen because it still relates and it holds weight totally.
We like that as well. It's very useful.
Right, of course. I'm so excited to have you here just because I don't know if you guys realize the value of the work that you put in, and just know that us listeners are so grateful for it, because learning a new language is just something that we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of different ways to do it, a lot of apps and a lot of this and all of that, but there's something that's so valuable in hearing an authentic conversation that you guys do so well, and you're helping so many people. You helped me. Because for those of you who don't know, being half Spanish, I grew up in the States, so although I have a certain degree of confidence in my Spanish, at times I lose it, and at times I do feel like I need that resurgence. And so listening to podcasts like yours, it helps a lot. But the first thing is that I would love to know the biggest challenge you guys faced learning each other's languages. Because I would imagine.
That's very clear. It's when you sit down at a meal table with, let's say, maybe 7 or 8 people of of your partner's family,
right,
or friends. That's the most difficult challenge.
In Spain, it's very common at a meal table with, say, 10 people at a table, a big family meal, to have 4 conversations going on at once, but not the person next to you with the person next to you. They're crisscrossing the whole table diagonally, and you're whatever, in my case, the English guy in the middle, just like, and someone asks you a question, and by the time you're ready to give them the answer, they've moved on to, they're 3 topics down.
Right, especially with
Spaniard
Spanish, there's so much like colloquialism, and like there's like different, it's hard to catch on to it, right? So I guess just like the everyday, the friend thing, right?
The other thing was writing emails in Spanish for a long time. Marina used to tell me that I wrote like a 5-year-old. I could speak like an adult pretty well, but my writing was still, she'd be like, aha, you look like a 5-year-old wrote that email.
Yeah. The way we learned the language was very different. I had been learning English for many, many years when I met Ben, and my writing was already good, and I knew I had lots of vocabulary. But maybe I wasn't confident and I wasn't fluent in English. But Ben was the other way around. He learned a lot by hearing, so he spoke quite well, but he didn't know how to write. So the difference between his speaking level and his writing level was like huge. Mine was more similar.
And that brings up one thing that I did want to ask about, because there's something that I deal with, which is, when were you able to feel like yourself in the language? Because I think it's easy to master speaking it and being able to communicate, but then you do in a sense become sort of robotic when you can only sort of, like, when were you able to really have your personality in English or in Spanish?
That's a deep question.
We get deep.
Yeah, that's I don't know. There's a stage when you suddenly realise that there's a barrier has gone, that Spanish is just flowing in, and on a good day flowing out. But it's almost more important that it's kind of flowing in. There's kind of the almost mechanical translation in your head thing stops, and it's all just suddenly natural.
Right.
And I can't remember what stage that was. Maybe after 5 years of living here full time.
Right.
Maybe more.
Right.
That it really disappeared, that barrier, and that's probably when I felt, okay, now I'm being naturally me in Spanish.
Right.
It does change from one time to another as well, because you might feel, in my case, I might feel like that, but suddenly I speak to someone that has a different accent, and I find more difficult to understand. And then I go back to feel insecure and
trust me, I
know. Following the conversation is more difficult.
It can be day to day.
So
day to day, yeah.
And also if you are tired, or it does affect a lot.
Oh, that's so true. I'll have one day where I'm with my family all day and I communicate so well, and I'm like, this is it. I've mastered it. I am now a perfect Spanish speaker. And then the next day, they'll catch me when I'm tired and I can't. Yeah.
It's like that.
So so it's important to maintain, it's okay to have your off days. So what are some phrases that you feel don't exist in your native language? Because I do find that a lot. Like there's some things that are just easier to express in this new language.
The one we always come up with, because it's just so great, is the word agobiado.
Agobiado.
Which means kind of overwhelmed, stressed, everything's too much. And so we speak a bit of Spanglish sometimes, so I might say, I'm feeling completely agobiado. And she understands exactly what I mean, and it's just that word
because I'm trying to think,
does it much better than anything else I could say in my own language.
Because I'm guessing there is some English significance, but it doesn't really fully encompass.
I don't know why, but it's kind of agobiado, stressed. But it's kind of stressed and overwhelmed.
Yeah,
and too much.
matiz.
There you go, matiz.
There's one, there it is. It came naturally.
The nuance. Yeah.
But also, language is very much associated to feelings. Sometimes happens that the exactly what you want to express, you can do better in one language or the other.
Exactly.
Like the little tiny matiz.
The smile, 100%.
It fits better in one language or the other. And then Benami, feel free to mix
speak a little Spanglish. Yeah, I know.
Apparently it's called, we did a podcast about this, apparently it's called code switching.
Yes.
Where you're very fluent in two languages, and the people you're with are very fluent in two languages. And so you just, I'll take a word from this language right now because it works really well.
Jump from one to another.
And you just pick and choose as you like, and it makes it feel like a better communication.
I spoke about code switching on my channel before, but it was for a video I was doing about being biracial. We talked about how sometimes we'll jump more into acting more this side of us, more Spanish, and then more black, and so it's very interesting to think of it also in a language sense. And growing up in Miami, Spanglish is very, very common. So it's totally, I love a good Spanish moment. Okay, next question. So any tips that you think aren't as common for people who are learning new languages? Do you have any?
Well, ours would be the way that you choose to learn, choose one that you enjoy.
Right.
That's maybe what we can do a bit different than other methods is that we choose subjects that we think are interesting and we enjoy. And I think that somehow gets transmitted through the audio. So whatever method you choose one that you feel is nice, it suits you.
And you also, the other really important thing is motivation. Like
staying motivated and consistent as well.
However you get that motivation, just go for that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just
something
go and find a way to speak, and just who cares if you say the wrong thing, because you get feedback,
right?
And you'll learn,
and you laugh,
right? Yeah, and it's okay.
Tremendous, amazingly embarrassing mistakes, by saying something incredibly rude or inappropriate without realizing, and the whole table laughs, and then
you're like, what? For me, when I'm practicing Spanish, I try to always have something. So right now I'm reading a book by Edgar Tolle, but it's in Spanish, which has been a challenge because it's El Poder de Ahora, which
It's a dance
in
book.
English would already be dance. Exactly. So doing it in Spanish has been a whole thing. But
Great book, but
yeah.
intense.
A good friend of
Exactly.
mine is listening to that. He does a lot of journeys from Madrid to the mountains where
Oh,
he lives. And he listens to Eckhart Tolle, the audiobook in Spanish.
Yeah. Oh my
As a way
gosh.
of-
As a way of improving his Spanish.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
He's a
I'm reading it
meditation
right now.
teacher as well.
Oh wow.
So it matches really well.
I love that. Right, absolutely. Yeah, so it's a subject that I'm interested in, and I read a book so similar in English, so it makes sense to read it in Spanish. But if I'm not doing that, I'm watching some of the shows or I'm listening to your podcast. I think just always having something and staying consistent with it has helped me.
Fun
Watch
and
a bit of
alive.
telly, read
Yeah.
a book, get an intercambio
Yeah.
and chat to someone.
Oh yeah, I for a while I was on a website where I had like a pen pal, but then he started flirting with me, so I stopped. But those are very
Does
helpful.
tend to happen.
Yeah, I
You're
was
not
like-
careful, you end up married to them like me and Marina.
Oh, shut up! Did you guys do pen paling?
No,
we
were
did
no.
the conversation
Intercambio.
exchange in Intercambio, yeah.
That is so cute. Oh my god. See, yeah. Well, if you actually like each other, this guy was kind of weird, but that is so adorable. I didn't know that. I live for that.
That's kind of how we met.
I make this entirely about you guys. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. My next question was, what was your experience dating with someone whose native language isn't yours? So was there a lot of challenges with that, or did you find it rather easy? Tell me all
Well,
the tea.
especially at the beginning, there are lots of confusions. No, it's like one intends to say one thing and the other one understood a complete different thing.
Right.
And then we had a huge argument, and then we realized that maybe we had been misunderstanding each other.
It lasted about 10 years.
It did last
Really,
a while.
Still going
on and off. But
Really?
we now, like after nearly 20 years or 20 years, there was something about 6 months ago. One thing was like, wow, that hasn't happened for ages.
Yeah.
But it
But
happened,
it happened
right?
a lot for a
Yeah,
long
the
time.
beginning. It happened
Really?
a lot, yeah.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been 20 years together, not
20
much.
Oh,
years
okay,
together,
got you.
married like 14.
That's a lot.
I should know the answer to
No,
that
I don't
question
know either.
immediately.
No,
It's okay.
17.
2002,
17.
17.
Yeah, okay, wow, got you. So by now you've sort of figured out the reins of it.
We've ironed out most of the culture already.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I would say it keeps it fun, right? No? Not at all?
Keep it,
Depends.
keep it interesting.
yeah, interesting. No, it does keep
To
it
say
fun.
the least,
Yeah,
right, not boring.
Interesting,
Well, you
yeah.
do laugh afterwards, but at
Right,
the moment
right.
it's
You're very angry and confused. Totally got
Yeah.
you. What we were talking about at the table, which I do want to bring up again, was about, because you guys do have children,
Yeah.
about what are the dynamics in terms of making sure that they're bilingual and that they both are confident in English and in Spanish. Your experience with that.
Well, what we did before having kids, we used to mix both languages quite a lot. But we were told that and we read about it and we investigated a bit, that it was very important for the children to separate both languages at the beginning, like differentiate them. So what we did was be very try hard not to mix the languages. So Ben would speak in English to our kids and I would speak in Spanish to them. And then between us, we could speak either English or Spanish, trying not to mix them. And both of our experiences were that after a while, because we live in Spain and the mother tongue is Spanish, obviously our kids started speaking Spanish first. And they do understand English and they take a while longer to starting to speak English. But when they do, you realize that the English had been there all along. And,
You were just tricking you.
and then they started speaking quite quickly, building sentences, which is the case now with our little daughter. And our son took a while longer, but I think that for our daughter has been easier because she has two English references. She has Ben and she has our son, who
Right.
is quite older than her.
The thing is, it's like much easier than people think to raise bilingual kids because there's like all these acronyms for like one language, one parent, you know, 1L, 1P or something. There's all these different like you can read articles about this,
Yeah.
but it's really easy. It's like I spoke to them only in English, and Marina only in Spanish, and
Right.
they end up bilingual. Just
Right,
like that.
yeah.
It's like, it's
Kids are very
easy,
absorbent.
very easy.
Right, yeah. I think
It's a big gift for the kids. Then also you see that they at least our older kid, they are able to learn a third language easier than the kids around them.
Oh, absolutely.
They have more skills, their mind is more open, their sounds, they have a wider range of sounds of being able to pronounce. So.
Yeah. So with a new language obviously becomes a new culture. So when you're in the UK, or obviously with you living here, were there other things that you had to make adjustments to that you didn't expect you would have to make an adjustment to?
In Spain, the hardest thing to begin with was the timetables of everything. You know, Spanish people, I got here when I was 26, and people, you know, I was used to going out in the UK at 7 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday, and suddenly people here would say, hey, let's meet on Saturday night, we're going to meet
Like
at 10
o'clock.
And I'd be like, well, what am I going to do until 10?
Get used to that. And I actually, like, it's nice to see people having dinner at like 9:30, but I'm such an early sleeper that I just don't like it. But yeah, that's obviously a huge adjustment. Yeah.
And I think also that
But you get used to it.
Yeah, of course.
20 years ago when you came to Spain, supper was later than now. And you see people now sitting down at 8:30. You see there's some people.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, there was nobody until 9:30.
100%, yeah.
So
Ahora de siesta todo cerrado, so yeah, it's different for sure.
That was another thing, yeah.
Siesta.
And I'd go and hang out with Marina's family in the summer, and they used to go a lot to a place up in the mountains, like a little house, a summer house had a pool. And the first time I went to lunch there with them, we had a big lunch, and then everyone kind of went down and just fell asleep around the pool. And I was just like,
You weren't a napper?
so what am I going to do for the next 2 hours? You know, I literally sat awake for 2 hours watching the whole family sleep.
Yeah.
And looking at my watch going, well, this is fun. You know?
Do you like just do it now?
Now, I'm not much of a napper.
Not much, no.
No, I
Yeah,
tend
those
to,
were whole
now I
day
go and
off.
read a book or something. Or
Right,
whatever,
yeah.
every now and again.
Every now and again, yeah.
Every now and
And
again.
it always makes
Sometimes
me
you
feel
need
terrible.
it. And always, yeah, me
Awful.
too.
Like-
I fall into it because everyone else is doing it, and then I guess I'm eating the same food that they are, so I also do get tired. But then I don't know, it kind of throws me off. I guess
Yeah.
maybe because I'm not as used to it, but
Well, with the heat of the summer in Madrid,
oh yeah,
that's the way round things go.
100%, yeah.
The night is when the weather,
come
when you go out and you go for a walk or you go for a drink and there is a breeze, and the rest of the day is like so hot.
The truth is summer in
that's
Spain
the
is different, yeah.
way we find to cope,
Mm-hmm.
to deal with it.
Yeah. So were there things when you went to the UK that you were like, what's going on here?
For me, the hardest thing was when we went to the UK at Christmas time, and it would be dark at 4:15.
Does it really get dark that early?
In December.
Oh.
Yeah, and in the dark days of December,
Wow,
it's
that's
like
interesting.
4:15, it's dark. And it's,
So
did
if
you
you
know
go
that?
with the Spanish timetable
like,
and you
here it
wake
gets
up
dark
at
really late.
9:30, then the day's gone.
day's
By the time
gone,
you
right.
have breakfast and you are showered, it's
like
just
a-
the day. Like, it's like a short.
nothing left. Yeah.
By the time you get out of the house, it might be 11 already, and it's like so.
Right, so dealing with
So
that.
that's why I think also wisely the timetables are different in the UK, and there is a siesta in Spain. There is a reason for everything.
I remember a long time ago, this just came to me now, I was listening to your podcast, you guys talked about something about when you were eating with his family, I believe, and like everyone just started eating before everyone was sitting down, and you were like, this isn't... No, maybe not.
Well, I can't.
It's fine.
It's very difficult because we've recorded so many
Yeah,
podcasts.
and that was a really old one. Something about like when you guys would sit down for dinner and some people would start eating before like the cook was done, like sat at the table.
Okay, yeah.
And in Spain, that's different.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. In Spain, the meals are a bit more formal and there is more
Right.
social rounded. It's true that if we are eating on the table, we usually would wait until everyone is sit down. And I think now I know what you meant. And everything will be cooked and we sit. And maybe even if there is 2 dishes, we would sit, have our first course, and then the second one would be waiting in the kitchen, cover up, keeping as hot as possible, but it would be already cooked. It might be the case that in Ben's house this was more dynamic, no?
Yeah.
And,
Because that actually still annoys me sometimes. I'm like, she's cooked the omelettes, and now they're going to sit there getting cold while we have our first course. You know,
I
for
know,
me, it's
yeah,
like,
it's different.
We'll
yeah.
have our first course, then we'll get up and cook the omelettes so they're nice and hot, and I'm watching them there sitting in the place thinking they're going to be getting a bit cold.
Right,
But for
right.
Well, this
Right,
is
this
this
is the thing.
It's okay, we haven't spoken about this before.
We'll finish this later.
Yeah.
For me, in that case, it's more important that we sit together and we have time to talk.
You guys are finding the value in
if
it,
someone stands up, especially when there are little ones, if someone stands up and goes to cook something,
Right.
the rhythm of the meal is gone.
I know, you're
Magic's
100%. It is.
It's
yeah.
gone, and
yeah.
then someone else will want to get down from the chairs, and it will be difficult to keep them sitting. So for me, and having been raised like that, for me it makes sense to have your omelettes between two plates, as we put it.
Keeping warm. Yeah.
Keeping warm. Maybe they are only half warm,
Right.
but we get to have lunch
It's a
together.
small sacrifice, is what she's saying.
I can deal with it. I can
Yeah,
deal with
right.
it.
100%, yeah. I also just
cultural.
think, the value of sitting together eating a meal is greater in Spain.
It
so
is-
it makes more
it is
sense.
great.
Yeah. The last thing that I had was I was curious to know your opinions on language apps, because now I don't know if you guys have heard of like Duolingo and stuff. Do you have you guys tried those? Do you guys have a perspective on them at all?
I had a very quick look at. We should look because
Yeah.
there was a point where we thought, ooh,
Maybe we need to go into
our
that.
business is going to disappear.
That's what I'm saying, but I
But,
don't.
I mean, so I had a look at Duolingo recently, and for me it seemed good, very aimed at a different kind of learning. You know, it's kind of the basics, the ABC of
Right.
Spanish, for example.
Right.
And so it's great. I think, it's different in a way. What we do is more about, okay, we have our thing, which is the real Spanish conversations. And
Authentic.
recently someone left a review on our website saying that he found it really good to mix Duolingo with what we do. Because Duolingo was like
Yeah.
the building blocks.
Right,
And ours
right.
was a more contextual, real
100%.
Spanish thing.
100%.
Our method is very personal. It's not a complete method. We don't teach all the grammar, but we have a lot of people that have written to us saying that they've learned with us from 0 to advanced. So it just, again, not everything works the same way for everyone.
Yeah, and everything contributes in its own way, but there's so much value in what you guys are doing. I really want to emphasize that. Just hearing an authentic conversation, especially just being a Spaniard and hearing someone who sounds so close to like my aunts and my mom. There's a lot of value in that, and you'll hear the little tidbits of grammar that you wouldn't hear in a textbook, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it just, there's a lot of value in it. So thank you guys. And if there's any future to Notes in Spanish, anything that you want to announce, or just you're going to keep on keeping?
No, we're just going to keep on keeping on. We're going to record hopefully more audio.
I would say more videos maybe.
Yeah, more videos.
And if you guys are looking to learn Spanish, especially authentic Spaniard Spanish that is different than anything in the world, I would highly recommend this podcast for sure, just off the bat. Worksheets are so helpful, and I would totally recommend you guys. Any last tidbits on learning a language, anything? Any advice?
To come and visit us at NotesInSpanish.com.
Yes.
We are there to help you.
Yeah, and enjoy it, like I said before, just it should be fun.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hasta luego.
Bye.
Cool.